The grand halls of Astoria Palace buzzed with whispered conversations as servants hurried through marble corridors. King Alexander stood at the massive window of his private study, watching the morning mist roll across the royal gardens. His weathered hands gripped the windowsill as he contemplated a decision that would shake the very foundations of the monarchy. For months, tension had been building between Queen Isabella and Princess Catherine, the beloved daughter-in-law who had captured the hearts of the people. What started as minor disagreements over royal protocols had escalated into a full-blown power struggle that threatened to tear the royal family apart. The catalyst for today's crisis had been brewing since Princess Catherine's remarkable performance during the recent humanitarian crisis. While Queen Isabella had remained in the palace, Catherine had rolled up her sleeves and worked alongside relief workers, earning unprecedented public admiration. The media had dubbed her the People's Princess, a title that made Isabella's blood boil with jealousy. King Alexander knew he had to act decisively. The monarchy's reputation hung in the balance, and the public was beginning to take sides. Social media was flooded with comparisons between the two women, with Catherine emerging as the clear favorite among younger generations. As he turned away from the window, Alexander's mind was made up. He would grant Catherine a title that had never been bestowed upon a daughter-in-law in the kingdom's 800-year history. The title of Royal Duchess of the Realm would elevate her status significantly, giving her authority over several charitable organizations and the power to represent the crown at international events. The decision wasn't made lightly. Alexander had spent sleepless nights weighing the consequences. He knew Isabella would be furious, but he also recognized that Catherine represented the future of the monarchy. The younger generation connected with her authenticity and genuine compassion, qualities that were essential for the royal family's survival in the modern world. His private secretary knocked softly on the door. "Your Majesty, Queen Isabella is requesting an urgent audience." Alexander straightened his shoulders. The storm was about to begin, and he would need every ounce of his royal resolve to weather what was coming. He had ruled for 35 years, navigating political crises and family scandals. But this decision would test his leadership like never before. "Send her in," he commanded, knowing that the next few minutes would change everything. The fate of the monarchy now rested on his ability to balance family loyalty with the greater good of the kingdom. As the ornate doors opened and Isabella's heels clicked across the marble floor, Alexander prepared himself for the fight of his reign. Queen Isabella swept into the study like a tempest, her emerald silk gown rustling with each determined step. Her usually perfectly composed features were marked by barely contained fury, and her dark eyes flashed with an intensity that made even the king pause. "Alexander, what is the meaning of these rumors circulating through the palace?" she demanded, dispensing with the usual formalities. "The staff is whispering about some grand announcement concerning Catherine. I demand to know what you're planning." The king gestured toward the velvet armchairs near the fireplace, but Isabella remained standing, her posture rigid with indignation. Alexander had seen this look before during their 40-year marriage, but never directed at him with such venom. "Isabella, please sit. We need to discuss this calmly," he said, his voice measured and diplomatic. "Calmly?" Isabella's voice rose an octave. "While you're plotting to humiliate me and elevate that woman above her rightful place. Alexander, I've stood by your side through every scandal, every crisis, every moment of doubt. I've sacrificed my own ambitions for this crown. And now you're considering giving Catherine privileges that I, as your queen, have never enjoyed?" Alexander moved closer to his wife, recognizing the pain beneath her anger. Isabella had indeed been his steadfast partner, but her traditional approach to royal duties was becoming increasingly outdated. The world had changed, and the monarchy needed to evolve or risk becoming irrelevant. "You know the polls, Isabella. Catherine's approval rating is at 87%, while ours continues to decline. The younger generation sees her as relatable and genuine. She represents hope for the future of our dynasty." Isabella's face contorted with disbelief. "So you're willing to throw away centuries of protocol because of popular opinion? What happens when the novelty wears off? What happens when she makes a mistake? You're gambling with our legacy, Alexander." The tension in the room was suffocating. Through the windows they could see gardeners tending to the roses, oblivious to the royal drama unfolding inside. Alexander realized this confrontation would determine not just Catherine's future, but the entire direction of the monarchy. "The decision has been made. Alexander said firmly. "Tomorrow's ceremony will proceed as planned. Catherine will receive the title of Royal Duchess of the Realm, along with all the privileges and responsibilities that entail." Isabella's face went pale, then flushed crimson. For a moment, Alexander thought she might faint, but instead, she drew herself up to her full height, every inch the formidable queen she had always been. "If you do this, Alexander, you'll regret it for the rest of your reign. Mark my words." As she turned and walked toward the door, her parting words hung in the air like a curse, leaving Alexander to wonder if he had just saved the monarchy or destroyed his marriage forever. News of the impending ceremony spread through the palace like wildfire. Staff members huddled in corners, exchanging nervous glances and hushed conversations. The announcement had been scheduled for the following morning, but word had somehow leaked, creating an atmosphere of electric anticipation and dread. Princess Catherine was in her private chambers when Prince William, her husband, burst through the doors with a mixture of excitement and concern etched across his face. He had just emerged from an emergency meeting with his father, where the king had revealed his intentions. "Catherine, we need to talk," William said, loosening his formal tie as he paced across the Persian carpet. "Father has made a decision that's going to change everything for us, for you specifically." Catherine looked up from the children's drawings she had been reviewing for an upcoming charity auction. Her intuition told her this was about the growing tension with Queen Isabella, something she had tried desperately to navigate diplomatically. "What kind of decision?" she asked, setting aside the colorful artwork. William sat beside her on the antique sofa, taking her hands in his.
"He's granting you the title of Royal Duchess of the Realm. It's unprecedented, Catherine."
No daughter-in-law has ever been given such authority and recognition. Catherine's reaction wasn't what William expected. Instead of joy or excitement, her face clouded with worry. She understood the implications better than most. This honor would come at a tremendous cost, potentially destroying any chance of reconciliation with Isabella. "William, this will make everything worse between your mother and me. She already feels threatened by the media attention I receive. This will be seen as a direct challenge to her authority." William stood and walked to the window, watching his children play in the garden below with their nanny. "Catherine, you've earned this recognition through your dedication and hard work. The people love you because you're genuine, because you care. Father sees that and he knows the monarchy needs to evolve." But Catherine wasn't convinced. She had grown up in a middle-class family, where harmony and respect were valued above personal recognition. The idea of accepting a title that would cause such family turmoil went against every instinct she possessed. "What if I decline?" she asked quietly. William turned sharply. "Decline? Catherine, this is an incredible honor. It would give you the platform to expand your charitable work, to make an even greater impact on the causes you care about." Catherine stood and joined him at the window. Their children's laughter drifted up from the garden, innocent and carefree. She thought about the kind of family environment she wanted them to grow up in, and whether this honor was worth the potential destruction it might cause. "I need time to think," she said finally. "This isn't just about me, William. This affects our entire family, including Isabella. I won't be responsible for tearing the royal family apart." As evening approached, Catherine found herself walking alone through the palace gardens, weighing a decision that would define not only her future but the future of the monarchy itself. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her shoulders as she realized that sometimes doing the right thing meant making the hardest choice of all. The palace was unusually quiet as dawn broke on the day of the planned announcement. In the early morning hours, before the staff began their daily routines, Queen Isabella made her way to Catherine's chambers. She had spent the entire night plotting her response to Alexander's betrayal, and now she was ready to take matters into her own hands. Catherine answered the soft knock on her door, surprised to find Isabella standing in the hallway. The queen was impeccably dressed despite the early hour, her silver hair perfectly styled and her makeup flawless. Only the slight tension around her eyes betrayed the sleepless night she had endured. "Your Majesty," Catherine said, offering a respectful curtsy. "This is unexpected. May I come in?" Isabella asked, her voice carefully controlled. "I believe we need to have a conversation, woman to woman, before this situation spirals completely out of control." Catherine stepped aside, allowing Isabella to enter the sitting area of her private suite. The morning light streaming through the tall windows created an almost ethereal atmosphere, but the tension between the two women was unmistakable. Isabella moved to the center of the room and turned to face Catherine directly. "I'm going to be frank with you, my dear. Alexander's decision to grant you this title is not just about recognizing your contributions. It's about replacing me as the face of the modern monarchy." Catherine felt her heart racing, but she maintained her composure. "That was never my intention, Your Majesty. I've always respected your position and tried to support the crown in my own way." Isabella's laugh was bitter. "Intention or not, the result is the same. Do you have any idea what it's like to watch your life's work be overshadowed by someone who's been part of this family for barely a decade?" The raw emotion in Isabella's voice caught Catherine off guard. Beneath the Queen's polished exterior was a woman who felt her legacy being erased, her contributions forgotten in favor of a younger, more popular alternative. "I understand your feelings," Catherine said carefully, "but I've never tried to compete with you or diminish your accomplishments. The media attention I receive isn't something I seek out." Isabella stepped closer, her eyes blazing with decades of suppressed frustration. "You may not seek it out, but you certainly don't discourage it either. Every photo opportunity, every charitable event, every public appearance where you shine a little brighter makes me look more irrelevant." Catherine realized this was a moment that could either heal the rift between them or make it irreparable. She chose her words carefully, speaking from her heart rather than from diplomatic training. "Your Majesty, I've always admired your strength and dedication. You've been a pillar of stability for this monarchy through some of its most challenging times. Nothing I do could ever diminish that legacy." Isabella studied Catherine's face, searching for any sign of insincerity. What she found instead was genuine respect and concern, emotions that caught her completely off guard. "Then prove it," Isabella said suddenly. "If you truly respect my position and care about this family's unity, you'll find a way to decline this title gracefully. You'll show Alexander that some things are more important than public approval ratings." Catherine felt the weight of the impossible choice settling on her shoulders. Accept the title and destroy any hope of family unity, or decline it and potentially miss an opportunity to serve the people she had grown to love. As Isabella left her chambers, Catherine realized she had less than 2 hours to make a decision that would change everything. The throne room had been prepared for what was supposed to be a historic ceremony. Golden chairs were arranged in perfect rows, fresh flowers adorned every surface, and the media had been granted rare access to document the momentous occasion. Photographers adjusted their equipment while reporters whispered predictions about the significance of this unprecedented title. Bestowal King Alexander stood before his ornate mirror in the royal dressing chamber, adjusting his ceremonial sash. Today should have been a triumph, a moment when he demonstrated his wisdom in recognizing Catherine's extraordinary contributions to the monarchy. Instead, anxiety gnawed at his stomach as he wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. Prince William paced nervously in the antechamber, checking his watch every few minutes. Catherine had been unusually quiet during breakfast, offering only vague responses when he tried to discuss the ceremony. Something was wrong, but he couldn't pinpoint exactly what had changed since their conversation the previous evening. Meanwhile, Catherine stood alone in her private chapel, a small sanctuary within the palace that had become her refuge during times of difficult decisions. She had been praying for guidance, but the answer that came to her wasn't what she had expected or wanted. Her lady-in-waiting knocked softly on the chapel door. "Your Highness, it's time to prepare for the ceremony." Catherine took a deep breath, knowing that the decision she was about to make would disappoint many people, but might be the only way to preserve what truly mattered. She had realized during her sleepless night that her role in the royal family wasn't about titles or recognition. It was about service and unity. As she made her way to the preparation chambers, Catherine encountered several staff members who offered warm smiles and congratulations. Their genuine affection for her made what she was about to do even more difficult, but she remained resolute. The throne room filled with distinguished guests, government officials, and carefully selected members of the public. Queen Isabella took her place beside the king's throne, her expression carefully neutral despite the turmoil raging within her. She had spent the morning wondering if her confrontation with Catherine had been too harsh, but it was too late for regrets now. Trumpets announced the beginning of the ceremony as King Alexander entered the throne room with regal bearing. The assembled crowd rose to their feet, Cameras flashed, and the historic moment everyone had been anticipating was about to begin. But as the king took his place on the throne and the formal announcements began, Catherine was making her way to his private study instead of the throne room. In her hands, she carried a handwritten letter that would shock everyone and change the course of royal history. She knocked on the study door, knowing that royal protocol was being shattered with every passing minute. When the king's personal secretary answered, Catherine's calm voice carried a message that would ripple through the palace like an earthquake. Please inform His Majesty that Princess Catherine respectfully requests an immediate private audience. Tell him it's urgent and concerns today's ceremony. The secretary's face went pale as he realized the implications. The ceremony was about to begin. Hundreds of people were waiting and the guest of honor was nowhere to be found. As he hurried toward the throne room with Catherine's message, he wondered if he was about to witness the most dramatic moment in recent royal history. The throne room fell into confused murmurs as King Alexander abruptly stood and announced a brief delay in the proceedings. His face remained composed, but those who knew him well could see the tension in his jaw as he processed Catherine's unexpected request for an emergency meeting. Prince William's confusion turned to alarm as he watched his father exit the throne room without explanation. The media began speculating immediately, their cameras capturing every moment of the unprecedented interruption. Queen Isabella remained seated, her mind racing as she wondered if Catherine had actually taken her advice to heart. In the privacy of his study, King Alexander found Catherine standing by the tall windows, still wearing her formal gown but with an expression of quiet determination that he had never seen before. The letter in her hand seemed to glow with importance in the afternoon sunlight. "Catherine, what's the meaning of this?" "The entire ceremony is waiting for you," Alexander said, his voice a mixture of confusion and frustration. Catherine turned to face him, her decision already made but her heart heavy with the weight of disappointing someone she deeply respected. "Your Majesty, I cannot accept the title you wish to bestow upon me today." The king's face went blank with shock. In all his years of ruling, he had never encountered such a situation. People didn't refuse royal honors, especially ones as significant as the title he had prepared for Catherine. "I don't understand," he said slowly. "This title would give you the platform to expand your charitable work exponentially. You could represent the crown at the highest levels of international diplomacy. Why would you refuse such an opportunity?" Catherine approached him, extending the handwritten letter she had spent hours crafting. "Because sometimes the greatest service we can provide is knowing when to step back rather than step forward. This title, as honoring as it is, would create a divide in the royal family that might never heal." Alexander took the letter but didn't read it immediately. Instead, he studied Catherine's face, seeing a maturity and wisdom that reminded him why he had wanted to honor her in the first place. "Isabella spoke to you," he said, not really asking a question. Catherine nodded. "She helped me understand something important. The monarchy's strength doesn't come from individual recognition or popularity polls. It comes from unity, from the family presenting a united front to the world. Granting me this title would undermine that unity." The king moved to his desk and sat heavily in his leather chair. 40 years of marriage, 35 years of ruling, and he had never felt more torn between his personal judgment and the greater good. "Catherine, you're refusing an opportunity that could change the course of your royal career forever. Are you certain this is what you want?" Catherine's voice was steady but emotional. "I want what's best for the monarchy, for the family, and for the people we serve. Sometimes that means making personal sacrifices for the greater good. I learned that from watching you and Queen Isabella navigate challenges throughout your reign." Outside, they could hear the growing restlessness of the crowd in the throne room. Decisions had to be made quickly, but Alexander found himself facing a dilemma he had never anticipated. If you decline this title, how do we explain it to the media, to the public who were expecting this historic moment? Catherine smiled for the first time that day, the expression of relief and resolve. We tell them the truth. That service to the crown comes in many forms, and sometimes the greatest honor is knowing when to preserve harmony over personal recognition. As Alexander finally opened her letter and read her eloquent explanation of her decision, he realized that Catherine had just demonstrated exactly why she deserved the title she was refusing to accept. The throne room had grown increasingly restless during the 30-minute delay. When King Alexander finally returned, accompanied by both Catherine and Prince William. The media sensed that something significant had changed. Their cameras focused intently on the royal family's faces for any clues about the unexpected interruption. Queen Isabella watched from her throne as the three approached, her heart pounding as she tried to read the situation. Catherine's serene expression gave nothing away, while Alexander looked like a man who had been forced to completely reconsider everything he thought he knew about leadership and family dynamics. Alexander took his place at the ceremonial podium. The prepared speech for Catherine's title ceremony crumpled in his pocket, replaced by hastily written notes that would deliver a completely different message to the world. "Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests," he began, his voice carrying the authority of 3 decades of public speaking. "Today was meant to be a ceremony recognizing exceptional service to the crown and the people of our realm." The crowd leaned forward, sensing that something unexpected was about to unfold. Catherine stood beside William, her hands clasped calmly in front of her, while Isabella held her breath. "However, I have learned something profound about true service today," Alexander continued. "Princess Catherine has demonstrated that the highest form of honor sometimes requires the wisdom to decline recognition in favor of something far more valuable. Unity and harmony within the royal family." Gasps rippled through the audience as people began to understand that the anticipated title ceremony was not going to happen as planned. The media representatives exchanged shocked glances, realizing they were witnessing a completely unprecedented moment in royal history. Princess Catherine has respectfully declined the title of Royal Duchess of the Realm, not out of lack of appreciation, but out of deep love for this institution and this family. Her decision reminds us all that true nobility lies not in the titles we hold, but in the wisdom we demonstrate and the unity we preserve. Alexander turned to face Catherine directly. "Your decision today honors the crown more than any title ever could. You have shown us that sometimes the greatest leaders are those who choose service over recognition, harmony over personal advancement." Catherine stepped forward, her voice clear and confident as she addressed the assembly. "I am deeply grateful for His Majesty's confidence in me, but I believe my role is best served by continuing the work I'm already doing, supporting the causes I care about, and helping to strengthen the bonds that hold this family and this monarchy together." Queen Isabella rose from her throne, a movement that surprised everyone in the room. She approached Catherine with measured steps, and for a moment the entire throne room held its breath. When she reached Catherine, Isabella extended her hand in a gesture of respect and reconciliation. "Princess Catherine," Isabella said, her voice carrying across the silent room, "your decision today demonstrates a wisdom and maturity that this monarchy has long needed. I am honored to stand beside you in service to the crown." The two women embraced briefly, a moment that photographers captured and that would become one of the most significant images in recent royal history. The gesture signaled not just personal reconciliation, but a new era of cooperation and mutual respect. As the ceremony concluded with a modified celebration of unity rather than individual recognition, the royal family presented a stronger front than they had in years. Catherine's sacrifice had achieved something that no title could have. It had healed the rift that threatened to tear the monarchy apart. In the weeks that followed, public opinion polls showed that both Catherine and Isabella's approval ratings had increased significantly. The media praised Catherine's wisdom and Isabella's grace and reconciliation. Most importantly, the royal family had learned that sometimes the most powerful decisions are the ones that preserve relationships over personal gain. King Alexander would later reflect that this had been one of the finest moments of his reign, not because of the title he had planned to bestow, but because of the character and wisdom his daughter-in-law had displayed in refusing it. The monarchy was stronger, the family was united, and the future looked brighter than it had in years.